because of what unfolded on that tragic night. We heard earlier on in the inquiry testimony from one of the only two people, who've survived after this inflatable dinghy sank in the English Channel in the middle of the night. Speaking through a translator, Issa Mohammed Omar says it took 12 hours before he was picked out of the freezing water, not by the Coast Guard, Sheila, but by French fishermen.
Everyone fell into the sea. People were screaming. It's very painful when someone is dying inside the water. If rescue would come quickly, I believe half of those people would be still alive today. We have been seen as refugees, and that's the reason why I believe the rescue did not come at all. We feel like we were treated like animals.
A report was published following the inquiry costing £7 million, by the way, and it concluded that whilst many on board had drowned or succumbed to hypothermia by dawn, some of those who ultimately passed were still alive as the sun rose, and then they could have too been rescued if authorities had turned up sooner. In other words, Sheila, the loss of life was preventable. How exactly? Well, the inquiry points to 3 fatal errors: people smugglers, of course, the slow response of the French Navy, but also flaws in our own Coast Guard's operations. And let's just focus on the latter, given that that is in the UK's control. If we go back to that night, those migrants on the small boats did make desperate phone calls to His Majesty's Coast Guard, but there was a widely held belief, this report states, that the distress from the callers was exaggerated, and so those in Dover, those officers, underestimated the emergency. It would have been traumatic, of course, for those calling, so too for Neil Gibson, who fielded those phone calls. He was the search and rescue mission coordinator on that fateful night.
Sitting at the end of the phone, effectively helpless. You want to get a boat to them, and you can't.
The ship was deployed to find the dinghy, and it did pick people up, Sheila, from another small boat carrying migrants, but it mistook that one in question, and so the incident was marked as closed. The Coast Guard has said that its thoughts are with those that have died, and the inquiry's chair, Sir Ross Cranton, has been careful not to apportion blame to the personnel on duty. He cites what are more systemic failures, he says. Put differently, there were chronic staff shortages. He lists also a number of recommendations. The government says that it will review those in responding calls, although it insists that significant improvements have already been made. In terms of the victims of this disaster, Sheila, mainly Iraqi Kurds, among them children.